to affect South East England. Some uncertainty about that aspect of the forecast, but if it comes off, of course, it could bring some significant disruption.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Good evening, I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. A child with a suspected case of strep A has died in Sussex, bringing the total number of deaths in the UK to 16. The UK Health Security Agency confirmed the child was a student at Hove Park School. It says it's working with Brighton and Hove City Council as well as the school to raise awareness of the signs and symptoms. Thousands of Royal Mail workers have walked off the job in a new wave of strikes. More than 115,000 people rallied outside Parliament demanding better pay and conditions. Members of the Communication Workers Union will strike again on Sunday, with further action planned throughout the month, including Christmas Eve. The Chancellor has announced plans to overhaul the financial sector, pledging to review and replace hundreds of pages of EU regulations. Dubbed the Edinburgh Reforms, Jeremy Hunt says Brexit has provided a golden opportunity to reshape the rules. More than 30 regulatory changes have been unveiled, including reversing some measures introduced following the 2008 financial crash. A cold weather alert is in place for England, with temperatures predicted to drop to as low as -10. The UK Health Security Agency is encouraging people to look out for those most at risk as freezing conditions persist across the country. Snow is forecast to fall in London and the southeast this weekend. Meanwhile, National Energy Action Charity warns the rising cost of living will leave millions having to pick between living in unheated homes or racking up debt this winter. Argentina will play Croatia in the World Cup semi-finals after beating the Netherlands on penalties. These were the scenes as the winning penalty was scored by the Argentinians. Emiliano Martinez was the shootout hero with the final goal. Meanwhile, England are preparing to face reigning champions France tomorrow night. Captain Harry Kane says his team are determined to win.
Into this tournament, hoping to and believing that we can win it. And we've got to a stage now where we expect it to be. And now it's about trying to push on, and we face a really tough game tomorrow, but I know everyone's ready, we've prepared, and we'll go into that game with maybe more belief in what we did back in 2018.
And Lord Young of Graffham, a cabinet minister who served under Conservative leader Margaret Thatcher, has died. The peer was appointed Employment Secretary in 1985 before becoming Trade Secretary after the 1987 election. He later served as a business advisor to Tory Prime Minister David Cameron, maintaining a key interest in education and youth employment. Mrs Thatcher once said of Lord Young, "Others bring me problems, David brings me solutions." He was 90 years old. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Leo Kearse and I'll be taking you through Saturday's top stories. Joining me tonight are Headliners stalwarts Jonathan Cogan and the big dog himself, he's actually smaller than me, Nick Dixon.
Yeah, so is everyone in the world.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a genetic freak. I noticed with the Harry and Meghan documentary, everybody was live tweeting along to it. So why don't you do that for this show and let us know what you think. Tag in Headliners and GB News. But first, let's charge through the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. So the Daily Mail says week of strikes is holding Britain hostage. The Daily Telegraph says strikes will see 15,000 operations cancelled. The Guardian says bully boy Barclay, that's not his real name, is to blame for nurses' strike, says union boss. The Times says misery on the railways every day for a month. I'm getting a theme here. The Daily Express says patronising, fury over attack on Queen's life work. I assume that's about Harry and Meghan. And The Sun says, now let's make French toast, lads. And they've got a picture there of, I think it's Harry Kane burnt into a slice of toast. It's amazing what you can do with Photoshop. And finally, the Daily Star, who saved the best till last, says, game of two halves, record numbers to watch England win. And those were your front pages. Let's start with the front page of the Telegraph, Jonathan.
Yeah, so strikes will see 15,000 operations cancelled. So the first national walkout of its kind will mean that patients will suffer prolonged wait for surgery as the emergency services struggle. So up to 15,000 operations are set to be cancelled next week because of the first ever national strike by nurses. So this is causing a lot of disruptions, and hospitals have been told to reschedule appointments as soon as possible. However, the 7.2 million people on waiting lists in England include more than 400,000 who have already waited a year. Now, after the lockdowns, after all the delays to people's surgeries and people postponing health checks, everything like that, this does kind of feel like it comes at a bit of a brutal time. I mean, I can understand why they're striking, but people have had to wait so long for operations and now they're going to have to wait longer.
So what do you want for Christmas? Like, not your kidneys to be fixed.
Exactly.
It's not very nice. Nick, what would you take in that?
Well, it's even worse than things like kidneys, Leo, because the question is, will anyone actually come if you call the ambulance? So there's this thing where ambulances may only be sent out if there's an immediate risk to life. But that doesn't include...
Isn't that why people call an ambulance?
Right, but that doesn't include things like heart attacks and strokes.
What?
So what? They're like on the B list. Yeah, it's in the story, Jonathan. That's like on the B list. That's like, that's like a low-level problem now in this new world. And they've asked the police to man the ambulances, and they're saying we can't.
Right.
We're asking the military to step in and do things. We're asking the police. Everyone's having to do a different job with all
the
these
military are
strikes.
used to driving tanks, so they're just going to try and drive over cars. It's going to be an absolute...
Get some angry drill sergeant giving you a sponge bath.
We're asking the military to work on trains and the border.
for that.
We're asking the police to work on ambulances. The whole country's falling apart, Leo. It says here health officials said patients should still call 999 if they're concerned that a life is at risk, but no one will answer. I mean, that's the problem.
But you can have a chat to somebody as you slowly fade away.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely shocking. And yeah, I mean, of course, the military is not happy about coming in. They've been asked. Rishi Sunak says it's unreasonable and unaffordable, and it's just an absolute nightmare, basically. It's people are calling it the winter of disconnect, and I think that's what we have.
Right.
And who knows how much of it is due to lockdowns. The economy is a disaster in general. The NHS doesn't work at the best of times.
Yeah.
So, people are talking about a winter crisis for the NHS.
Yeah.
But the papers have been running that story for about 10 years.
Well, the thing is,
But it's even worse now.
Every year, papers run this story about a winter crisis for the NHS, and usually the NHS can sort of scrape together and just pull through. The thing is, because we've come out of lockdown, we've got everybody's immunity's gone, so we're seeing flu rates and infection rates are shooting through the roof. And also, there's so much burnout in the NHS and unfilled posts. So this time, it looks like they were already at burnout before going into the winter. This time, it looks like it could be really serious.
All that clapping I gave them did nothing.
Did nothing.
Did nothing. Waste of good skin on my hands. Oh well.
Nick, what are the Guardian leading with?
Guardian's gone with Bully Boy Barclay is to blame for the nurses' strike. And this is actually a ridiculous story, to be honest. I mean, the actual nurses' strike is obviously very serious. But the angle that the Guardian's managed to find is that Steve Barclay is some kind of sexist and he won't negotiate with the head of the nurses because she's a woman representing a largely female workforce. Now, maybe Barclay is this monster described in the article, but this seems a bit of a silly angle to me. She says here, this is the head of the Nurses Union, Royal College of Nursing, sorry, and she's saying that, the more I think about it, I'm a woman negotiating for a 90% female profession that is trying to operate with a government that's particularly macho, is it? With Rishi Sunak leading it, and tends to operate with bully boy tactics. So, but surely you can look around and see that the trains are in the same state, the border, everyone's striking. So is it really the case that it's a misogyny?
Yeah, and also, if nursing is 90% female, surely, we should be applauded in attempts to have men, rebalance that gender divide.
Oh, yeah, where's the male nurses campaign?
We should encourage men into nursing. And Steve Barclay is one of those men. Jonathan.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like these kind of jobs, people can choose to do them, and it does seem to be heavily skewed towards women. I think there's that extra sort of caring and nurturing sort of bedside manner that women can just do that men can't necessarily do.
How dare you?
No, it's a compliment.
I'm telling the Guardian.
Am I cancelled? I meant to be nice.
But anyway, I don't care about that made-up story. The real story on the front cover of The Guardian, you do occasionally see, in amongst the sort of the clickbaity pieces about how everything's racist and sexist, you do see the occasional bit of good investigative journalism by The Guardian. Here we've got the Michelle Mone scandal.
Yeah. And I've got a good overview of it, Leo, but I'm struggling on some of the details because I've just been handed this Tolstoy novel of a piece just before we go on air. The Guardians, they've definitely gone in detail. They've offered like a 50-page article. And yes, we know that she's in trouble over these PPE contracts involving MedPro and a second company called LFI Diagnostics. And it looks as though Mona, her husband, and PP MedPro and 3 other intermediary companies, which already sounds a bit dodgy, in the supply chain appear to have made in excess of 100 million in profits from government contracts worth 203 million, according to a Guardian analysis. As you say, not 2 words we normally put together, but the Guardian actually, like you say...
That's a 50%. So basically, there's the VIP lane for PPE contracts. So, government ministers, the normal rules of diligent sort of checking out and putting things out to tender didn't happen. Things were just rushed through. But in this case, it looks as if Michelle Mone has lobbied for these contracts worth over £200 million, and 50% of that has been creamed off as just cash. So, it looks... From the outset, I don't want to get myself in legal trouble here, but considering she's apparently fleeing the country, I don't think... I mean, you've got to sort of be in the country to sue someone. I mean, it looks...
No, Leo, she's taken some time out to clear her name.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really being cleared so far. She's also selling a racehorse and selling a yacht that she probably bought during lockdown with the money that she got from this.
With a number plate scamming.
Yeah. And there's all this money, filed into offshore companies, and then there's all these circuitous routes that they tried to sort of... It looks like they tried to launder the money through and distance themselves from it. But then whistleblowers at the bank apparently revealed this
this potential alleged fraud.
This is the kind of profiteering that people were saying would be taking place during the middle of the pandemic, and everyone's saying, no, it's just a conspiracy.
Yeah.
No one's doing that. No one would use this catastrophe to advantage themselves, but here we are. Here we are.
My favourite quote is that Rishi Sunak said he was absolutely shocked by the report. Should have spoken to Matt Hancock or someone. He would have been less shocked, I imagine. Just satire, of course, purely satire. No one's done anything wrong. Just want to be clear that for broadcast.
I think they'd be more shocked if they found a politician who hadn't lined their pockets with taxpayers' money that they managed to divert into Cayman Island accounts from PPE. Bear in mind, I think the taxpayer spent £16 billion on PPE, and we just got some face masks for that. So there's some billions. There's some billions there that have definitely gone into somebody's pockets. Anyway, how about the Daily Express, Jonathan?
Yeah, so this is a story about the Meghan and Harry Netflix documentary, Patronising, Fury Over Attack on Queen's Life's Work. So there's been a bit of an uproar and an outcry about the documentary where Meghan has sort of been, arguably disrespectful to the Queen, sort of making fun, calling the Queen's work the Empire 2.0, which is, upset a lot of people. I haven't watched it. You've seen the first episode, right?
What's wrong with Empire 2.0? It's even better than the first Empire. I wish it was that. It's a way worse Empire. We haven't even got one. We're trying to get rid of our own Empire.
Sorry for bringing your railways and democracy.
Yeah. What's wrong with Empire 2.0?
It's what is wrong with Empire 2? That's a great,
So you've not even watched it?
I've not watched the documentary. I have no desire to.
I didn't know we were going to talk about it again, or I would have forced myself to watch the second episode. I did watch the first episode. I gave my assessment last night. Harry's basically wounded by his mother's death. He's tried to replace his mother. He's picked the wrong person, a narcissistic, evil person, and that's the documentary. But when I think about it, it's actually working really well for them because Netflix has got huge views on this documentary. Everyone's talking about it. And people say, why are they doing this? It's terrible. But if you think about it from their perspective, obviously it's evil and horrible, but they're in a different business now. They're in show business. They're in the business of getting views. And Netflix wants to get views. So from their coldly, ruthless, logical perspective, they're actually doing the right
smashing
thing.
it. I heard, sorry.
Well, I was just surprised how boring. I watched the third episode. I skipped the first two because I thought all the juice is going to be the third one. And it's so dull. It's just so dull. Nothing really happens. They sort of everything. It's like watching a street performer. Everyone's saying, I'm going to do this amazing thing. It's like, well, get to the point and do it. Unless there's some bombshell, like Harry does a DNA test.
We
find out why he's ginger. You know what I mean? Unless there's some sort of bombshell like
you know that one already.
With Major
Dad.
Yeah.
Satire. Leo, I can't believe you started a third. Fight Club must have been a nightmare for you. Like, you just start at the end. You're watching the third episode. You must be watching The Sixth Sense, just baffled. But if you watch movies from
Memento was fine.
He's like, oh, the movies are boring at the start. I'll start at 60 minutes in.
Well, I started Star Wars with Part 4. Everybody did. But
Empire 2.0.
Yeah. But any thoughts? You haven't watched it. What do you think of the whole?
I've heard allegedly that the only reason why Harry agreed to this because he thought it was a sex tape that Meghan was filming. It was all an elaborate ruse, and it turns out it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you do, Jonathan?
And Nick, we're going to finish off with The Sun.
Yes, The Sun has gone with. Now let's make French toast, lads. And it's a quite interesting image of Harry Kane's face sort of emerging from a piece of toast, a bit like some people claim to see the Virgin Mary, but they're seeing Harry Kane. And it's, of course, it's England versus France at 7 p.m. tomorrow. I'm finally going to be able to watch a match. I've missed this whole World Cup due to working here because I'm so dedicated, but it means I haven't been able to see any games. There have been really exciting games today. Brazil and Croatia, Netherlands and Argentina, both penalty shootouts. And hopefully we won't lose on a penalty shootout to France, but it's so inevitable that we will. And I've watched England lose on penalty shootouts since 1990, and it's just incredibly depressing. But you two are looking at me blankly because you've never watched football, have you, either of you?
Football's kind of boring.
It's a little bit boring.
I mean, it's all right if you're playing it, but if you're watching other people play it, come on.
I can't believe you think football's boring, but you're interested in Michelle Moan's PPE contracts. I mean, that's more boring than football.
Interested in mass, large-scale larceny and fraud. Yeah.
Which is also football these days.
Yeah. Alleged. It's not as good as someone kicking a goal in a net, is it?
Well, we'll see. Anyway, it's time for a quick break now. Join us in 2 minutes when we'll be discussing Justin Welby's views on asylum policy, the joys of the British Railway this Christmas, and Elon Musk could lose his title. Don't worry, he's still chief twit. See you in 2 minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations. for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Leo Kearse, and I'm still here with the Headliners legends Jonathan Cogan and Nick Dixon. Saturday's Guardian, and they get paid £80,000 to sit on their bums drinking coffee and pressing the odd button, but train drivers still want to ruin everyone's Christmas, Nick.
Oh, that's quite a neutral introduction from Leo there as the host. Yeah, about 4,000 trains to be cancelled daily over Christmas, even after strikes. So some routes will be cut for almost a month as operators wrestle with the full impact of the overtime ban. And it was going to, it's going to go on and on. The Chiltern Railway said the ban was meant to be run no trains at all on the 18th of December. And it also expects it will be unable to run any trains north of Banbury on its London to Birmingham network until after the 4 days of strikes end on 7th of January. This feels like a traffic report reading this. Passengers on the A4. I'm just giving you travel information. So basically the strikes are going to go even longer. They're going to destroy the trains for months to come. And it's all a total nightmare. And as you say, train drivers don't get paid enough. So they're going to have to bring in the army, probably, who get paid half as much as the train drivers.
Yeah.
And, they should bring in some nurses to ride the trains. Why not?
The system works,
Some train drivers are on like 70, 80 grand, and they literally don't even have a steering wheel. You know what I mean? It's harder to drive a car. So, it seems unfair that, they're so well paid. It seems almost like they're a sort of mafia using the leverage of the power that they've got as a sort of monopoly over driving trains to force us to give them more money.
Yeah, almost like communists working against the rest of the country. Carry on.
Do you kind of get the feeling everything's sort of falling apart a little bit? Everything's
Absolutely.
on strike. It does seem we're going into a second world country. It feels like, if that's what I'm...
At best.
Second. Hey, I'm positive. I'm the,
I sympathise with... I don't go as far as Leo. I sympathise with strikers to a point. But it's when you destroy Christmas, and then it's when nurses go on strike at the same time, and the whole thing, like you said, just collapses into a sort of developed third world, probably. Yeah,
third world. Okay.
Banana Republic.
How long till automation comes and just takes over everything?
Well, this is part of the reason a lot of the terms that the train drivers are striking for is to maintain unnecessary jobs and prevent automation and prevent things that would allow staff to be laid off and repositioned in more sort of productive.
I can't wait till a robot comes and replaces me to do this job. It's going to be amazing.
We're working on it, Jonathan. Yeah. To be honest, we could just do it with a wooden spoon with a face on
Josh Howie, I suppose. Yeah.
I like Josh.
It's the first one I could think of where I wouldn't get in trouble for saying it. I like Josh.
I mean, Nick, I think, train drivers going on strike, it's not really going to make much difference because most of the time the train doesn't even turn up anyway. You have to get on a replacement bus service.
It's a good point. When I used to do comedy gigs before I was retired from comedy, just the word replacement bus would stop me doing the gig, because it's such a nightmare when you have to get a replacement bus, isn't it? But I don't know, Leo, I think this will have a big impact on people trying to travel at Christmas. You said the other day it's great for you so you don't have to do your Christmas plans. But for anyone else, it's going to be a total nightmare.
I think there's going to be a lot of relieved men out there being like,
we can't see.
I'm going to see the mother-in-law.
Yeah, I mean, you've already been. You hate the strikers anyway, but I think this will actually put off neutral people who are more sympathetic to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fingers crossed. And of course, Keir Starmer has come out and said that he's actually going to offer them more money as a sort of bribe to get votes. Well, I think that's just for the nurses. But anyway, Saturday's Telegraph, and we all want to pay less tax, but Kwasi Kwarteng regrets trying to make this happen, Jonathan.
Yes, indeed. So Kwasi Kwarteng says he and Liz Truss blew it. It presumably being Boris Johnson. So Mr. Kwarteng said Liz Truss' short-lived government blew it during its time in charge of the country. He said Miss Truss's 7 weeks in Downing Street, which culminated in her loss of complete political authority and resignation, saw her top team get carried away. They weren't the dream team we thought they could be. They were short-lived, and they tanked the pound to its lowest amount in 37 years. Yeah. I mean, it came back. But...
well, it was worth £1.
Yes. Well, relative to whatever it is, gold galleons, whatever other countries use. But he said his biggest regret was that we weren't tactically astute and we were too impatient. There was a brief moment and the people in charge, myself included, blew it. I kind of feel a bit bad for them. They sort of have this... I mean, I'd actually forgotten about it until I read this article, but they sort of have this legacy of in and out and not doing too well.
Well... I mean, it is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? People got carried away. I mean, we know. I mean, Kwarteng said there was no...
Mao got carried away,
There was no tactical subtlety whatsoever. We noticed. But I'm torn between having some admiration for the fact that they were trying to attempt growth versus the fact that they squandered that opportunity and have now plunged us into this socialist hell where we pay this absurdly high tax and the country's just getting poorer. Did you know, I found out the other day, we're now poorer than every single US state. And, it's shocking. And guess what else? By 2020, it's anticipated we'll have a lower GDP per capita than Poland. Poland! I mean, they used to be coming over here to benefit from our economy.
So we'll be going over there to pick their crops and all the rest of it. Well, I mean, Britain in the 70s, we're the sick man of Europe. We had, our economy was doing so terribly. London was hollowed out. This is well before the boom years when everybody funneled back in and pushed house prices up. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, you think it's a new 70s 2.0. It could well be. And he also, if you saw that interview 4 weeks ago, Kwarteng also said that he told Liz Truss to slow down. So he is claiming, I was saying it was too fast. But between the two of them, they made a real mess of it. And now it's not there to blame, but we're now in the hands of the Jeremy Hunts and the Gordon Brown type thinking.
Yeah, and it seems as though there's never going to be a government that's going to attempt a high-growth, low-tax regime for, probably for another decade at least, because it's now been tarred by their incompetent implementation of it.
Well, this guy, Mark Littlewood, the Director General of the IEA, had a sort of funny analogy about this. He said, you might have the recipe for making the most perfect and delicious pizza, and the pizza here is high-growth economic strategies. But if the chef is hubristic or crazy or incompetent, you're not going to end up with a particularly tasty pizza. Does that mean you shouldn't eat pizza again? No, it just means you shouldn't eat pizza cooked by that chef. When you regret an analogy halfway through. But yeah, he's got a good point. He's saying there's nothing wrong with these kind of principles, but they just didn't apply them very well.
Yeah. OK. And the Times now, and Justin Welby has got locks on his doors and a big wall round his house, but he says that this country should have open borders, Nick.
This makes me angry. As a Christian and as a person, Justin Welby condemns cruelty of UK's asylum policy. He's saying that he's talking about the harmful rhetoric of invaders. Everyone's been very concerned about this rhetoric. So this is the church, once again, sticking its oar into politics, and it's always a lefty oar. It's always what the Labour Party would say. Really, it's these liberals that have infiltrated the church. They should really stick to Christianity, but they've ditched that in favour of, left-wing politics. And we've had... It's a very bad time for Christianity. We've had... There was a priest on GBNews the other day saying that he advocated the ban on prayer near abortion centres, which is bizarre, and that he was pro-abortion, which was also strange to me.
Yeah.
But then we've also had the Crown Prosecution Service saying that reading the Bible in public, parts of it may be illegal. So Christianity's under fire, and we're trying to survive. And yet you have people
it's dwindling as well.
It's dwindling with the census.
We saw the census showed that it's fallen to less than half of the UK is Christian, and by 2050, Islam is going to be the largest religion in the UK.
Exactly, and you think Welby would be rallying to defend Christianity. Instead, he's poking his nose into politics. And loving your neighbour doesn't mean letting anyone into the country, and then, that doesn't love your immediate neighbour who's already in the country.
You can love them from a distance.
Yeah. But what about your actual neighbour who's already next door, is a citizen?
Yeah.
So it's all this sort of woolly sort of... Yes, you can always find a quote to back this up, but it's just Welby sticking his nose in again.
Yeah. Jonathan, are you rabidly right-wing as well?
No, I don't even know what I am. He says a compassionate system does not mean open borders, but a disposition of generosity and readiness to welcome those who need it, who genuinely need, asylum. Now, you can't argue with that, but then again, he's not really saying anything. It's a bit of a platitude, but I mean, I agree. We should completely treat these people as individuals, as, humans in need of help, but he doesn't really answer any of the tough questions that come with it. Yeah. Just sort of being like, we should be nice. Like, yeah, it's nice to be nice.
Yeah, and if you continue to be nice and have an open borders policy, as we basically do now with such an easily exploitable asylum system, you're going to continue to have people coming across, making that a very dangerous crossing, and it's a terrible system all around. It's bad for them. It's bad for us. There should be legal avenues for immigration rather than this illegal.
Yeah.
The system.
We all agree it's a bad policy, so we'll be jumping in and saying, I also think it's a bad policy and I really should be representing the church. It's just not helpful, is it? It's just not a useful intervention.
He's not providing solutions, which I think religious people should do. Anyway, Saturday's Mirror, and the government is making it illegal to give women compliments, Jonathan.
Yes, indeed. So sexual harassers in the street will be jailed for up to 2 years under a new law. So people who sexually harass women in the street or on public transport will face up to 2 years in prison under new legislation. So the government has thrown its weight behind a private member's bill by ex-Cabinet Minister Greg Clark to make public sexual harassment a specific criminal offence. I thought it was already. Apparently so it already is an offence. But this one's a bit different. I think it's specific to women, which is, if that is the case, that's slightly confusing to me because we've got different laws applied to different people, even if you say the same thing to them. That's sort of a bit confusing. What if it was like a same-sex street harassment? Would that not be punishable by police? Or if a woman did it to a woman?
My understanding is that sex crime laws are different between men and women.
Oh, OK.
Obviously, we're built differently.
Fair enough. But apparently it's not going to be something like wolf whistling. It's going to be aggressively following someone in your car or really kind of shouting abuse at somebody.
But the danger is, following someone. So this is slowly driving along the street next to someone. With all these 20-mile-an-hour zones in London, you risk trying to keep to the speed limit and accidentally committing a hate crime.
Yeah. Points on your licence or 2 years in prison. You've got to choose. Yeah.
That is a danger. Yeah. Look, I'm against harassment of women on the street. I've always said that.
Where do you do it?
Nice one. I'm not even answering that. Look, obviously there's been some horrific incidents, and that's why they want to tackle this. But what you want is more police on the streets. That's what you want.
More visibility,
you don't want,
sure.
Yeah, an obscene comment, which is sort of ambiguous. Someone could say, OK, Leo's made an obscene comment. Well, bad example, because he probably did. But they could say, Jonathan's made an obscene comment about me, and then they can get you 2 years in prison.
Yeah.
Surely what would be better to actually protect women would be more police on the streets, which they'll never do.
Yeah.
But that would actually do it. Whereas this is sort of gesture politics that I don't think will achieve much.
I think it's terrible that there's this culture of women being, harassed, shouted at, intimidated on the street, which, definitely exists in the UK. Like when I've had female friends who live overseas and they come to the UK, come to London, they're like, oh my God, this is nuts. Somebody tried to grab me, all the rest of it. And it doesn't happen in Canada, it doesn't happen in, more civilised places. But the way this law could be worded is, a genuine attempt to chat someone up in the street in a sort of gentlemanly, non-threatening way could be,
They should give like official government-sanctioned chat-up lines that you have to use, and if you say one of those, it's okay. And if you deviate,
I think everybody's just being forced onto dating apps, onto Tinder. So we're losing that thing, and it's almost like old people can't deal with banking apps. So old people probably can't deal with dating apps either.
It's bad news for those that pick up artists that hang around the shopping centre in the day trying to neg women.
With a medallion on, gelled up
big hat and stuff. Yeah, they'll be
purple,
for 2 years.
Purple jacket.
Purple jacket,
sure. Yeah. So anyway, ending this section with The Guardian, and buying Twitter seems to have been disastrous for Elon Musk's finances.
But what a great guy. Yeah, Elon Musk could lose world's richest person title as Tesla value almost halves, and his net worth has gone down about 70 billion, which is never good. And Tesla's share price has plunged 49%. And Tesla shareholders are worried that he's spending too much time on Twitter, basically not on it necessarily tweeting, but working, well, probably both tweeting and running it. But he's doing it for humanity, as we know. He's not doing it for money. And, of course, that's a concern. He's trying to run all these businesses. But he had to do it. It was a great thing. And it's annoying all the right people. Elton John has just left Twitter today, citing misinformation. They've literally just released files proving that the prior Twitter suppressed true information, and Musk has fixed that.
Yeah.
But in Elton John's head, that means misinformation because he's just a shill of the establishment.
Yeah.
And he wants to go and promote,
Well, his brain's addled from all that cocaine.
Yeah. So but he is adding people back on. Roger Stone's got back on. Laura Loomer's back on. So of course, leftists don't like this. Big tech don't like it because we're going to have an equal playing field again. Unless everyone just goes off to Mastodon and flounces off.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great thing he's done. I think it's a revolution for free speech. The question is, will it work, or will big tech, the Democrats, and all these powerful people just sabotage it and sort of try and turn Twitter into Parler by just leaving and getting everyone to leave? Who knows? But
people leave and they come back in a week. Everyone makes a big hubbub.
Or they just say they'll leave and then they never even leave.
That's the classic social media thing to do, to flounce off and announce it as if you're a departure board at an airport. And then you just reappear.
Also, as if anyone cares.
It's always some weird thing. I'll still be here a bit to check in from time. It's like, look, shut up, stop talking. Why are you even saying that?
Anyway, we've reached the halfway point. After the break, we've got Shark Week. Is racist now, apparently, along with everything else. We've got free condoms for the French. And we've also got South Koreans have the best remedy for ageing. See you in 2 minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got Saturday's Times now. And Scotland invented transgenderism with the kilt, but Nicola Sturgeon's plans to let men self-identify as women to get access to female spaces, such as prisons, have been criticised, Jonathan.
That's right. So the headline is, the SNP's self-identity bill could harm women's rights in England. So UK ministers have called on Nicola Sturgeon to scrap plans to let Scottish people self-declare as the opposite sex over fears it could lead to legal chaos and undermine women's rights in England. Under legislation expected to be passed by the Scottish Parliament before Christmas, people over the age of 16 will be able to apply for a birth certificate with their new sex within 6 months without a gender dysphoria diagnosis. So the option in Scotland is there to just self-identify, get the new birth certificate, passport, and you don't have to be diagnosed by a doctor. So there's sort of no barriers now. There once were. So senior UK government figures fear the move, which is not available to people in England, could allow biologically male Scottish prisoners in England, in English jails to demand to be placed in female-only prisons. So there seems to be a sort of a disconnect here between what's allowed in Scotland and what's not
so you
allowed in
could
England.
So basically go up to Scotland, I could go up to Scotland and say, I'm a woman now, I get my birth certificate, then I go down to England and now I've got access, now I'm recognised as a woman and I could, it's like, gender passport tourism.
They're calling it gender tourism. And there's people like Kemi Badenoch are pointing out that it won't be able to be fully contained, there'll be legal chaos. And they're even saying that the government could take, they could take the Scottish government to the Supreme Court over this. So, it's typical Sturgeon stuff. She has to do the opposite of England and create this weird little communist dictatorship in Scotland where it doesn't seem to care about the effect on children. You know, just going to allow children to be basically mutilated with this horrific law.
There's a huge... I mean, in Glasgow, they're treating children as young as 9 with puberty blockers, which is, you know, to my mind, I'm not a doctor, but it just sounds way too young. And also there's a huge incentive for criminals to identify as women, because then it hides your previous convictions, because you'll be convicted under your previous name. So you get a new name, you get to call yourself Susan or whatever, and then you also get to go to a female prison and probably continue committing crimes.
What shocks me about this is I live in North London. I've spoken to the ultra-liberal people in North London who disagree with me on everything. But the one thing they agree on is that no one wants puberty blockers for kids, especially really young children who can't properly understand the consequences of it. I'm not sure anyone can really understand the consequences, but why is Sturgeon still pushing it then? I can't believe the people of Scotland want it at all.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, the Daily Mail next, and Shark Week is racist, apparently. I knew it was a bad idea to call them great white sharks, Nick.
Yeah, that was your mistake, Leo. So now Shark Week is racist. Woke Washington Post claims annual Discovery Channel Predator Fest features too many white male experts on screen, and apparently too many of them are called Mike. So this is all about breaking the glass ceiling of white male shark experts called Mike, Leo. It's a problem we've long known about. And so they said there was actually more people in this thing named Mike than women. So that's the danger. It's like, why are there so many Mikes?
It's Mike Week.
It's Mike Week, yeah, exactly. And the other funny part is that it emphasised negative messages about sharks. Now, what if you had a bad lived experience with a shark, like it ate you or something? You know, that could be... Can't you express your negative experience?
Yeah, Jonathan, wouldn't a Shark Week that just dealt with, good representations, benign representations of sharks be a bit boring?
It would. It'd be less exciting. But I do actually understand where they're coming from with that, because apparently shark attacks are so few and far between compared to everyone's perception of how regular they are. I mean, everyone's terrified of sharks, even though there's such a...
be quite a lot, though, couldn't it? Because everyone thinks, since Jaws, everyone thinks, you go in the sea, you get eaten by a shark.
I think about that every time.
So our perception...
That's where the sharks live.
Right, our perception is 100% risk.
Yes.
And so if it's even like 50 people they kill, that's still a lot less than perception, but it's still quite a lot.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think part of the problem here is that they've really just... Okay, so these shark experts, these are people who've chosen to, study this field and they become experts in it, and now they're almost being punished just for being successful in it.
Yeah, being called Mike.
Being called Mike, that is unforgivable, but yeah, it's not on.
Yeah.
It's not on, I'd say. Yeah.
Well, The Guardian now, and South Koreans have been lying about their age just like you do on Tinder, Jonathan.
Yeah. I'm 18 on it. So all South Koreans to become...
You say you're 18, but you're actually 12.
Yeah. That's the only way I can get on. So all South Koreans to become younger as traditional age system scrapped. So this is quite exciting. So South Korea is to scrap its traditional method of counting ages and adopt the international standard, a change that will knock off 1 or 2 years off people's ages on official documents, but could take some time to seep into daily life. So this is really good news if you're a 30-year-old single woman, because you're now 28. But if you're dating an 18-year-old, bad news for you, because
they're suddenly going to become...
16. Yeah, you become you become a problematic person overnight. I don't know what the rules are. But yeah, it's exciting. So they basically rejig the whole system.
Yeah,
great.
It's bizarre. I mean, what a strange system. You're born and you're immediately 1, but then you can be you're born just before the 1st of January. So now you're 2, and you're actually only about 5 days old.
Yeah. So your age ratchets up on the 1st of January, no matter what day of the year you're born on.
Yeah, and there's a separate system as well for calculating national service, where they find out the age from... Hang on, what is it? In those cases, a person's age is calculated from 0 at birth, and a year is added on New Year's Day. So they go from 0 to 1 on New Year's Day. Everyone else goes from 1 to 1 again to 2 on New Year's Day.
It's
I don't even understand it. Well, I don't understand it. This is South Korea.
Yeah.
This sounds more like North Korea. Like, you have a mad system. Why didn't the world step in and say, stop doing this, guys? It's ridiculous. They finally are. I'm a bit torn because I'm pro-nationalism, but yet this is really stupid. So I'm like, it's their tradition, but it's obviously mental.
Yeah, although it's handy for joint birthday parties.
Yeah, that's about the only advantage, though, isn't it? I mean, other than you can now suddenly be younger. So, yeah, they're all relishing suddenly being younger. But apparently it emerged because they had their ancient numerical system didn't have a concept.
That's interesting. That's like...
right.
Yeah.
Right, so couldn't they just invent one for when you need a 0? Anyway, such as, if you're Michelle Moan and you need something to add on the ones after the amount of money that's gone into your account. Anyway, the Mirror now, and something for the weekend. France is handing out rubber johnnies to young people. Can you see where they're coming from, Nick?
Well, yeah, I see that what you did there. France announces free condoms for 18 to 25-year-olds across the country. So this is Macron, and he's doing it to prevent STIs. And it's interesting because it will presumably stop infections, right? But France has a problem, like much of Europe, with birth rates. They're at 1.83 birth rate, which is too low. Then again, Leo, for balance, it is quite a good thing to have less or fewer French people. So I'm torn.
Save it for the match tomorrow, Nick.
Yeah, I'm getting the banter in early.
I mean, the last time I saw a French story about contraception, it was they'd invented these sort of very tight pants that made your genitalia close to your body, warming up your spermatozoa, so it basically fried it.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? They've moved on to condoms now. That's much less exciting.
Well, condoms seem more reliable than slightly warming your
They can do both in a sort of belt and braces approach, no pun intended. But would you want your tax dollars, Leo, go into this? Because that's what, they say it's free. It's not. There's no such thing as a free condom.
We get that here.
It's tax.
If you go to, like, a sexual health place, which I've never, ever been to because I don't believe in it, they give you free condoms.
Which part don't you believe in?
I don't believe in getting checked. I'd rather not know. It's just safer. It's just safer. Just safer.
Eccentric you are.
I'll leave it to God.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, exactly. I mean, also, government procurement. You know the French version of Michelle Mone will be purchasing those condoms for like £1,000 each from our brother's company. And the money will be flowing into the Cayman Islands. Anyway, we need to put a condom. We need to put a prophylactic over political spending. That's where it needs to go. On to the Times now. And as boys do worser and worser at school because we're thick, should boy-only schools be scrapped, Jonathan?
That's the question. Time's up. Should boys' schools be scrapped? They're coming for boys. They don't like male-only spaces. Poor results and concerns about sexist behaviour are pushing boys' schools to go co-ed, but all-girl institutions have a different take on single-sex schooling. So many experts believe that traditional boys-only schools could be wiped out completely in the next decade. So quite a few of the really famous ones, like Eton College, which was always, very kind of prestigious, high-achieving school. It's now dropped out of the top 15 fee-paying schools. And there seems to be a pattern with that with other all-boys schools. Is that just because boys are lads and they don't care about school because they're cool? Is that it?
I don't know what it is. It must be. Maybe it's that male privilege I hear about, and that's why men are doing worse at school. And then, like when they graduate, they're killing themselves.
Is school getting worse or are boys getting worse? Because if school's getting worse,
women are doing better. Girls are doing better at school.
Yeah, maybe it's the widespread hatred of men and boys in the culture, and the fact they have nothing to aspire to, and everyone hates them, and they just end up watching Andrew Tate videos because he's the only one that actually cares about them. It could be that. I mean, look. Boys, it's totally unequal, as you said, because they're going to keep girls' schools, but they just don't want to get rid of boys' schools. So there'll be mixed schools and girls' schools. And what it is, because girls are doing better, as you say, it's a cynical attempt to get the exam stats up. They bring in a few girls, they get better results, they say, look at us now. But then there's no boys' schools, so how is that fair? So, yes, and this idea that men, they've managed to call boys toxic. They brought up toxic masculinity, even in the article. So it's just constant attacks. It's not enough that you're doing worse at school. You've got to constantly be called toxic. It's just who's actually looking out for boys? So it's no wonder that they're getting worse at education. And of course, coursework favours girls. That's been proven.
Exams favour boys. Yeah.
So where men are better at, where there's a stressful thing you've got to cram for and then get through.
Yeah, style it out at the last minute. Yeah,
right.
Well, since the introduction of coursework, girls have done better because it's more, they're more sensible. Are we allowed to say that? That's sort of like reverse misogyny, though, sort of.
Positive.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll get in trouble with someone for that, but I'm not sure who.
Yeah.
HR, but yeah.
Everybody. Anyway, a little break now, but in 2 minutes we'll have Lego, Fortnite and moon missions, which is Jonathan and Nick's Christmas present lists. They posted up the chimney to Santa. I'll see you in 2 minutes.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the final part of tonight's headliners. Back with Saturday's Telegraph, and useless parents are trying to blame a computer game for their own terrible failures.
Sort of how I would say it, but less sort of aggressive. But yeah, parents can sue Fortnite now because it's deprived their children of sleep, food and showers. This is in Canada. So yeah, the kids have just been playing Fortnite instead of looking after themselves, and it's led them to forego sleep, food and hygiene. Of course, heroin can also do that. You can't sue heroin. But and this question is, are video games addictive? And the judge has basically concluded that they are potentially addictive, but there's no evidence that they were deliberately addictive. It's a bit silly because, of course, all games pretty much are designed to be addictive. You get dopamine for hitting new levels. What were you going to say?
Well, yeah, they used to be designed to be fun and make you want to have the best experience possible, and that would give you dopamine, and you'd get in that sort of cycle where you keep wanting to beat the level, keep coming back. But now they actually do engineer them to be, like, especially all that things like Candy Crush and stuff like that, allegedly, they specifically make them, you get the little noises. It's almost like a one-armed bandit machine.
Yeah. They've got psychologists working with these companies to try and make it as addictive, to try and activate those neural pathways.
100%. It hijacks your pleasure system. Now, I as a kid, I loved video games. I was always sort of playing them, but I would never, not bath or not shower because of it. I would not bath or not shower because I was... What I used to play? Wait, sorry, say again.
I was making a joke.
Right.
Sorry, I won't do that.
I stepped over it. We'll fix it in post. Yeah, okay. But yeah, parents should be better. Don't let your kids be addicts. Be better.
Yeah, it is partly the parents' responsibility. Then again, there are some kids that are just so obsessive. The way they get hooked into the game, and they're almost impossible to stop. So I don't know. That's just a very sort of down the middle of the road take for me there. I see all sides of this, Leo.
Right, OK. Do you play any video games? You seem like the sort of person who would.
How dare you? No,
Football Manager?
I don't anymore. I completed GoldenEye on all settings, but that was like decades ago.
That was last week. Anyway, now, Jonathan, I know you're not allowed to play with Lego because you eat the pieces, but Lego have started a war with Australia.
Crikey, fury over a new Lego set that uses famous landmarks and cities for other countries, but depicts Australia with a dusty shed. That's what they call the Sydney Opera House. So Aussies have hit out a new Lego set for depicting the country as a random S*** hole, while other countries are represented by famous landmarks. So this is quite funny. So the Lego Creator postcard set is set to be released on January 1st with different versions depicting different countries. So you've got Big Ben in London, you've got New York in the US, but the Australia one is just a dusty wasteland because, they like to be true to life.
I love the way you gave us a date as if we're going to buy it.
Yeah.
There we go. I was hoping we had
We've got a picture.
What's that one? Which one's that? That's Australia. That looks nice.
All it's got is a shed and then a little thing of a kangaroo saying warning kangaroos. And that's the only way you can tell it's Australia.
There are no clouds in Australia.
To be fair, that is broadly what Australia looks like. I mean, what were you going to have? I mean, obviously, we've got Big Ben. Paris has the Eiffel Tower. What does Australia have? They have a load of...
A guy in a string vest.
Empty space.
I've spent a lot of time in Australia, and it's amazing. It's a continent. It's basically a continent. It's vast. It goes from, tropical rainforests in Queensland and Darwin all the way down through. You've got the deserts, and then you've got more temperate. You've got penguins down by Melbourne.
Yeah.
And in West Australia, you've got stingrays and sharks and all the rest of it. It's amazing.
You wanted to live there, but I was saying to you that you wouldn't be at work because we'd all be asleep when you tried to, do your phone-ins to GB or whatever. So it's not going to work practically, is it?
Yeah, I mean, if I lived in Australia, I probably wouldn't work for GB News.
No, you'd be like a crocodile hunter.
There'd be some Australian news or something I could work for.
Yeah. The one thing they missed on that Lego picture is that shed was actually at one of those COVID detention camps.
The meth lab.
we see that again? Doesn't matter. It's still a good joke.
It's a good joke. Yeah, because Australia did have quite an authoritarian approach to COVID. Anyway, the Times and British nuclear waste is going to be sent into space, Nick.
Oh, yeah. Now, ostensibly, this was a boring space story till I realised it was a brilliant pro-Cumbria story. It was they're going to send this radioactive waste into space. This is Americium, I think it's called. And this is a game changer because we used to have to get this stuff from the United States and Russia. But now we figured out this Americium can be extracted from nuclear waste, and we're not going to need those guys anymore. We're going to make our own. Small quantities of it are used in smoke detectors in most houses, apparently. But now they found this new use for it. And it's going to be great for Cumbria because we've got all this plutonium stored at Sellafield. And there's a sort of maturing process, like cheese maturing, where the plutonium-241 decays over time into Americium-241. And there's going to be a £19 million laboratory in Cumbria incorporating the fuel into battery-like cells that can be sent into space. So it's very good. So we just got the coal mine in Cumbria that all the lefties tried to block, but apparently it's now been approved, which is amazing. Now we're getting whatever this is, and we're going to be the new Singapore.
Well, I bet they're going to block this as well because it's nuclear waste, which generally left-wing people don't like that.
But it's off Earth. Yeah. It's going somewhere else.
It's going into space. I'm assuming the rocket doesn't blow up, in which case it's going into all of our houses.
That's true. Or they might make some sort of radioactive monsters up on Mars, which would be kind of scary.
But I think we should use this to try and get to the moon for the first time. Because you know how we never went.
Ooh, that's
satire, guys. That's satire.
That's another Ofcom strike.
Yeah, we definitely.
Wait, you not
conspiracy theory.
We went loads.
Anyway, the Daily Star and a pub landlord is an absolute legend and has punished striking rail workers, Jonathan.
This is some beautiful passive-aggressive revenge here. So, an angry pub landlord cancels rail workers' Christmas bash due to strikes. So the Bristol Rail Workers Social and Welfare Fund won't be holding their annual party at the city's Portwall Tavern this Christmas after the pub's landlord refused to accept them. So this pub landlord is facing the wrath of union leaders after cancelling a rail workers' Christmas party due to the strikes affecting his trade. So he's basically had enough of all the strikes kind of getting in the way of his business. People aren't able to travel there. Workers aren't able to get in. He's had enough. So what he's doing is cancelling their party at the last minute just to stick it to them. That's beautiful. Whether or not you agree with the strikes, which I think you guys have made yourselves clear, that's a funny thing to do.
Yeah, and it seems perfectly fair because, I mean, over lockdown, the rail train drivers were bailed out. Hospitality workers, often didn't get any furlough money. They're lowly paid anyway. And the rail strikes are apparently going to cost the hospitality industry £1.5 billion. Probably more now because they've announced more strikes. So, it seems fair that...
Could this set a precedent? Could other...
Yeah, I think deny service to strikers. Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty based. It's a sort of classic battle between the sort of aspirational small business owner and the union, the left-wing union. So it's a kind of classic British battle. And of course, I'm on the small business side, having grown up above a little restaurant that my mum and dad ran. And I thought he was very cool. What he did, he said he wrote a very polite email saying that while I wished them well in their action, hoped it would soon be sorted, I couldn't accept the booking. It would be hypocritical of me, given I've lost a lot of money because of the strike. I think that's completely fair. But then they hit back and said everyone should boycott his pub. That's the really nasty part.
Yeah.
So Bristol Trade Union Council said that they were an anti-worker establishment, and that trade union and the Associated Society of Locomotive Engineers and Firemen said that trade unions should avoid drinking there in both
They're going on a pub strike now.
And professional capacities, yeah. And what you end up with is we're going to end up with some weird world where you can only go to sort of establishments that follow your politics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why you work here.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well done. Good point. So, yeah. I can't top that.
We finish with the Daily Mail. Nick, why don't you tell us about some of the worst Christmas dinners?
Yeah, worst Christmas dinner crimes. 2/3 of Britons have seen baked beans served with Christmas lunch, while 59% have been horrified at ketchup and 45% appalled at chips, with 11% mortified at mash replacing roasties. Now, let me go through this. Chips are fine for Boxing Day. Wouldn't have them on Christmas Day. Mash instead of roast potatoes is bad. You'd be gutted at that. Ketchup, I believe. Ketchup is fine. My dad was a professional chef. He had a lot of standards, but he didn't mind a little bit of ketchup in the Christmas dinner. I think they're being too sensitive about ketchup. In fact, I can go through the list with some of the ones that bother me. Ketchup, I think, is fine. Serving mushy sprouts, I don't even know what that means. That's not a dish. It's mushy. What's mushy?
I guess just not well cooked.
Yeah,
overcooked. Yeah.
Serving a Yorkshire pudding, that's fine. A Yorkshire pudding is fine at Christmas. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, that's good.
That's a roast.
That's a nice roast. Yorkshire puddings are nice.
Yeah, so they're completely wrong on that. I mean, but people did complain about an undercooked turkey. Yeah, because that can kill you. It's like salmonella on a plate. So
yeah. Jonathan, have you had any horrific?
So for our Hanukkah meal that we have 8 days in a row, it's the same, cook a big... No, we don't. I do love Christmas dinner, but I think roasts are overrated. I've had so many in my life. I could take them or leave them.
Right.
They're fine. They're fine. It's a lot of stodge.
I think
put on weight.
It's the best way to eat a potato.
Roast.
You just had someone not very good making them. You see, I've been spoiled because my dad was a professional chef.
Yeah.
Now I have to go
Small
to my
restaurant.
brother's house, and of course it's nowhere near the same. And I can say that because he'll never watch this channel. But you've just not had good roast potatoes. That's all.
No, I've had a lot of them.
You haven't.
All right. Well, I'll come round to yours on Christmas. Let's do it.
It's just my brother won't do them as well. But anyway. Anything to add, Leo?
No, absolutely nothing to add to the roast potato debate. They're good, and that's the end of the story. Anyway,
end on a big high note there.
Yeah. So
that bombshell.
We're bringing the important set of stories here. Anyway, that's it for Headliners. Tune in tomorrow for more Headliners at 11 p.m.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep.